Welcome to Module 3, Morphology and Word Building. This will be just a short introduction to the module and the expectations with the assignments and the discussions.
In Module 3, we are focusing on morphology, which is the study of building words. Morphology is the branch of linguistics that studies the structure of words. Morphemes are the word builders of language. In English and in many other languages, many words can be broken down into its morphemes. And so for the word unhappiness, we would find three morphemes. Courses and talking each have two. Why? Morphemes are the smallest unit that words can be broken down into which have meaning or grammatical function. So for instance, un is a morpheme, yes is also a morpheme, but it also happens to be a word. Many times students will confuse syllables with morphemes. They are not the same. Syllables don't always have meaning or bring meaning to the word. Morphemes always contribute meaning to the word. So our objectives for Module 3, understand aspects of morphology needed in the ELL classroom, understand basic morphological patterns needed in the ELL classroom, and then create engaging morphological materials and lesson plans for the ELL classroom. We're going to wait on syntax until Module 4. So our readings, I would highly recommend watching the video first, then reading Chapter 2 in the West book, and then viewing the PowerPoint. Those three seem to support each of them with the same information. Then Chapter 3 Bear will be looking at setting up a word study program within your classroom. And then a second chapter in the Bear book would be choosing a spelling developmental level that is most closely associated to the grade level you teach or want to teach. The back book has 4 chapters. They're pretty short, and they all introduce different ways to teach morphology and morphemes and word building. Graduates, you have an additional article, The Role of Morphological Awareness in ESL Acquisition, and then there's some other resources that are listed in the module. Vocabulary that we're looking at for Module 3, morphemes, free and bound morphemes, derivational and inflectional morphemes, lexical gaps, and orthography, which is spelling, the study of spelling words within a language. The discussion that everybody is completing for Module 3 is a choice. You can pick one of those 3. The third one is worded not great. So basically you need to read that blog, and then you would be able to answer the question, what could go wrong with this approach? Please remember your discussions can be right at 150 to 200 words. No more than that is really needed. And be sure you respond to at least 2 peers.
Okay, the assignment that everybody is completing for Module 3, again, is a choice, and they are all either lesson plans or activities. Pretty self-explanatory, but the one thing I want to make sure everybody understands is in this course, no matter what assignment you're completing, no matter what choice you decide to do, it is standards based, and that should be written, clearly labeled at the top of your assignment. And not only the grade level and the number of the standard, but I would also like the description as well. And that can be copied and pasted in, that's fine. But I need to have standards so I know what your purpose is for designing the lesson or the activity that you're submitting.
The last 2 assignments that everybody completes is the self-evaluation quiz and then the Module 3 e-journal learning reflection. And please remember that's just a brief entry summarizing what you learned in Chapter 3 or in Module 3. Surprises you had, connections you made, questions you still have.
And then graduate students, you have an additional assignment. This is a long-term assignment. Note that this will be submitted in Module 7. Basically what you're doing is you're picking one of the weekly assignments you have completed from modules 3 through 5. And then you're going to be asking your peer review partner to evaluate your response. And then from that, you will write a one-page reflection summarizing the feedback from your partner, and then what revisions or additions you would make before implementing this lesson or activity into your classroom. And the due date for this would be Wednesday, July 10th. Sorry, the due date would be Wednesday, July 24th.
Some reading highlights. In the 4 chapters, you will be reading things about word building, syllable search, orthography. You'll also be learning about an activity that you can incorporate into your classrooms called anagrams, which is looking at words and then figuring out how to scramble the letters to make other words. And I noticed that at the beginning of our PowerPoint, we had a picture of a bat, and we had bat or bats. And when you look at those 4 letters, you can make 3 words out of that. And so that's an example of an anagram activity. I've already discussed the words their way readings. Basically, the chapters you are reading in Module 3 relate to the instruction that comes after you have administered the spelling inventory and have determined this developmental spelling level your students are in. A famous quote of Dr. Baer, who used to teach at Iowa State, he was my advisor for a while, was trying to determine what they use and what they confuse. So chapter 3 is summarizing how to organize for word sorts, and then the second chapter is you will pick the level based upon the grade level you teach or want to teach. So each chapter is focusing on a specific developmental level. And if you're a high school level, or if you're a middle school or a high school teacher, I would recommend chapter 8, because that's the chapter that focuses on Greek and Latin roots, which is probably more developmentally appropriate for your age of student. The West chapter, chapter 2, is pretty straightforward, but it does have a fun little test your morphemes knowledge game. And it lists several words that you can see how you do with counting morphemes. So I thought we'd do a few together. So the first one is the word rats. How many morphemes are there in the word rats? If you guess 2, you're right. Because you've got rat, which is one morpheme, and then you've got that letter S, which is another morpheme, and so together we would count that as a 2 morpheme word. What about anaconda? And I made this picture of the anaconda small in case anybody's afraid of snakes out there. This is tricky. Remember, we're talking about the meaning that the morphemes bring to the word. How many morphemes are in this word?
One. I know. Surprised? We were too. We even questioned it and emailed Dr. West, and he said that it is a 1 morpheme word because the syllables in anaconda, even if you looked at those as morphemes, they do not bring meaning to the whole word anaconda. Therefore, it's a 1 morpheme word and a 4-syllable word. Okay, due dates for Module 3. The discussion is due Tuesday, July 9th, and then the 2 peer responses, the assignment, the quiz, and the journal entry are all due Wednesday, July 10th. And then the extra assignment for the graduate students, the peer review reflection paper, is due July 24th, and that is submitted within Module 7. Okay, and finally, I would like to remind everyone that I am asking you to include a heading for your assignments. It can be as simple as your name, module number, and response choice, and due date. And so an example of that for this module would be Deborah Johnson, Module 3, Choice 2, Remedial Lesson Plan, and then it is due Wednesday, July 10th. If you could include a heading like this in all the assignments that you complete, it helps me with grading tremendously. Please remember to email with questions. I am on this course a lot, but for sure Monday through Friday, noon to about 3, grading and reading journals. So send your emails then if you need immediate feedback. I hope you enjoy this module. I hope you enjoy learning about morphemes and morphology and the building blocks of our language.